Welcome back to the Skolcial Network after a bit of a mini bye. It looks like Brev was a limited participation candidate in practice, but now he should be cleared to go for this Sunday. Brev, how you feeling?
I'm great. I don't know what you mean by the joke.
I don't know. It was just a dumb joke because of
Oh,
our injury report constantly
yeah.
causing
I
us to
mean,
panic.
low key, I did think I was getting sick on Thursday, but I was trying to remember if I told you that or not.
I don't think you told me
So
this
then I was like,
time.
did I say that? Because like that was kind of spot on.
Oh, well, I
Yeah,
guess it worked.
but I'm
No,
I'm fine. Everybody out there, don't worry about me. Nope. Still pray for me, I guess.
my son had an ear infection, then he was on antibiotics, then it caused him to get a cold and a 103-degree fever, get sent home from school, and then now the antibiotic caused him to break out in a rash, so he had to go to urgent care this morning and get a steroid shot. So good week.
Nice. He's on
Yep.
roids. He's juiced.
He's yoked, dude. He's
Good.
already like breaking tables in rage and threatening to throw me through a wall. So we're doing good.
That can we? Do you have cameras in your home? Can we get footage of that?
I will be posted as soon as it's available. He's currently benching
Good.
my car. I don't know why he feels the need to do that, but
Mm.
hey, it is what it is.
If the
Um,
if the Vikings win the Super Bowl, we will release that footage. I'm
my
reporting that
wife did
now.
release footage of me reacting while he was asleep to the Dodgers winning the World Series earlier this week. That was that was fun. But I will say I will go 10 times as hard in the paint when, not if, the Vikings eventually win a Super Bowl because math says that they will at some point.
This gotta. It's like it's the kind of math that like pi is. You know.
I just got breaking news from CNN popped up on my computer. TGI Fridays is filing for bankruptcy. We didn't order enough
No.
food. We didn't do enough.
No. No. Their mozzarella sticks are so good.
I apparently, anyways, I can go on a rant about theme chain restaurants. But we play the Colts this week. The Vikings obviously had two back-to-back games over a 4-day span leading up to this, and then get the mini bye. What are your overall, like, obviously ending that 4-day stretch? There were some negative feelings and vibes going on. What are your thoughts now about this coming Sunday, especially now that we know Joe Flacco is going to be the QB we face?
I would have rather played Anthony Richardson for sure. I don't know what happened, but before he got hurt and went out for the year last year, everybody was really excited about him. And now he just kind of sucks. And he has like literally one of the worst completion percentages for a career in NFL history. It's like 48%, which is
Coaching,
ridiculously bad. Yeah, coaching's
coaching.
not great.
That's
Um,
a player who would have thrived in Minnesota, sitting behind Kirk. Um, Literally somebody with the exact opposite skill set he had, but was a veteran. But at the same time, we also know Kirk Cousins loves mentoring younger quarterbacks and doesn't feel threatened by their presence. So I'm also sure that would have gone well.
yeah. But I don't know. I'm definitely more scared to play Joe Flacco, which is not something that a couple years ago you think you'd be saying in 2024. But like Joe Flacco is low key solid, and I think that's really cool.
Do you remember the old Barstool shirts, the Flacco shirts that said Elite on them?
Yes, good
Those
shirts.
just keep popping into my head. And because I'm
Good
trying to talk
shirts.
myself into the fact there's a reason Flacco was out of the league for a bit and has hopped around mostly as a backup, but there's also a reason teams keep signing him. And so we will have to wait and see what version we get. Both of them, um, Richardson and Flacco, not good against the blitz. I think Richardson was ranked like the 44th best against the blitz, and I think Flacco was like 43rd, 42nd. And his
Hmm.
average depth of target when being blitzed is only like 7 or 8 yards. So I think we should be able to impact him. I say that fully knowing our pass rush has not done anything the last 2 games.
Yeah. I don't know where they went, but they're missing. So if somebody could please return them home, that'd be cool.
They will also be starting a rookie at left tackle because their starting left tackle is out. So for Jonathan Grenard, that is a huge opportunity to get back to form.
Yeah.
There,
Left
there's no
tackle, blind
excuse.
side, Joe Flacco. He's like 50. Yeah.
Wasn't Michael Orr
Yeah.
his left tackle,
I,
actually?
I did they
Yeah, because
switch
he
over to
coached.
right tackle?
Oh, possibly. Maybe. I just
I
always
think they
assume left
might have.
tackle because of the blind side.
Yeah, fair. That yeah, man, good movie. I haven't seen that movie in a while. Is that a bad family? Was that a messed up thing to do?
Um, I can share stories with you, but what they did, the private schools in California, you started to see a lot of it with basketball. There was a
Yeah.
kid I coached against named, and he went viral the other day because he was at the Dodger game and people thought he was like an NBA player, which he could have been. His name's Mamadou Ndiaye. I coached against this guy and went to UC Irvine, and I think he went to like Cal or something. I'm probably wrong on the school he ended up going to after or transferring to, but I think the kid's like 7'6". And so he was one of those cases where just some rich family ended up just adopting him and putting him into their son's school to play basketball. I have never seen somebody dunk without having to jump in that. We were not stopping him. Anything we did, there was nothing we could do.
If I could choose to have any superpower and I had a list, I think standing and dunking would be up at the top.
Yeah, you could just go to the NBA. You don't have to do anything else. You
Yeah.
don't have to run. You don't have to really play
Mm-hmm.
defense because you're guaranteed 2 points. Anyways, this is a football podcast about the Minnesota Vikings. So, couple things to note because obviously the offense stalling out has been as bad as the defense not being able to get home has been for us. At the end of the day, we've still been in games and the offense hasn't really taken advantage of every single opportunity. So taking a look at the defensive rankings currently through week 8, in total defense, the Vikings right now rank 18, allowing 346 yards a game and 17 touchdowns, or 346.9, so 347. The Colts are allowing closer to 380 a game and 18 touchdowns. So for that bottom of that list, they've allowed the fewest touchdowns in like the last 10 teams ranked. Passing defense, obviously the Vikings are towards the bottom of that list. The Colts are allowing 227.8 yards a game and 11 passing touchdowns. With rushing, they have the third worst rushing defense, allowing an average of 152 yards a game and 7 rushing touchdowns. And then when it comes to scoring defense, they're kind of right there in the middle, next to like a few spots down from the Vikings. But overall, especially with Hawkinson coming back, do you see our offense, even with a new left tackle that we'll talk about here in a moment, being able to take advantage of a Colts defense that doesn't seem to really be that strong?
I would sure hope so. And it's not just because Hawkinson is back, which is definitely welcome, obviously, but just you have to respond. Like you have to do something tomorrow night. And like Minnesota came out really hot against the Rams last Thursday, and everything looked okay. It kind of looked like, I mean, we know they lost to Detroit the week before, but it's a close game. You lost at the last second, so you're not panicking. But then the offense just straight up off a cliff disappears, and that seemed to be kind of a theme under Kevin O'Connell, and it's not because he's getting any less aggressive. I just don't know if from being a football coach perspective, he's just easier to figure out as the game progresses. I don't know, because it always seems like Minnesota starts out hot, but um, I don't know. I think Hawkinson bringing coming back is definitely going to help improve things. Like looking at a box score for the Vikings offense, like it's not going to take them from what they're doing now to like so much better. but just on a play-to-play basis, Hawkinson he's really good at finding the soft spots and zones. So having that in the middle of the field for Darnold, Hawkinson can get vertical. Um, yeah, they just need to do something. They need to respond somehow. Not like the entire team needs to show back up, except for Will Rickard. Will Rickard might be
I was
the
gonna
MVP
say
of this team, but yeah,
he's he's
yeah,
done his damn job.
yeah, an offense, and maybe you can chalk the Rams game up, like the disappearing act that the offense did to like Sean McVay knows Kevin O'Connell, but I think it just happens too much for it to not be some sort of legitimate slight against O'Connell. But I'm
I,
really hoping that this feels like a game where you need to go out and score 40. It really does.
yeah, I agree with the need to go out and just lay it all over the field. I would say with O'Connell, one thing I noticed, I was talking to our friend Sally on Skolcial and Spice the other day, and if you think back, like the theme of the Vikings disappearing after the first quarter isn't new to Kevin O'Connell. It was something we saw under Zimmer and his multitude of OCs. I remember, I think it was the Vikings had scored on the opening possession at one point in like 21 or 22 on like 9 straight games. Um, and then would just disappear. The weird thing about O'Connell is if you look back to 2022, obviously they led the league in comeback victories. So they were scoring at the end of games. Last year, a bit of an anomaly with injuries, but even with Dobbs and Mullins, trying to keep the team in games, they were scoring in the fourth quarter. This year, like we disappeared in the Lions game for a couple quarters and then we outscored them in the fourth quarter. They actually got the offense moving decently in the fourth quarter in the Rams game. So I don't know what it is. Because it's not like it's the first and second or just the first, and then at the end of the games he's figured out, because we've seen that we can have success under him at the end of games. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if you saw his quote this week about changing the offense. But Justin Jefferson also explained it to the media. They're trying to simplify things, take out time to overthink. I think I saw a stat somebody shared where when Darnold has less than 2.5 seconds to throw, it has like 120 quarterback rating. When it's more than 2.5 seconds to throw, it's like 60. Um, which is kind of crazy to think about, is that he's the exact opposite of Kirk Cousins in that sense, where the less time he has in the pocket, he's better. So I don't know what that looks like. I don't know when you have the talent this team does, and we've seen whether Darnold hits it or we look at the all 22 and he didn't. We see how these receivers can get open down the field for big plays. I don't know if it's good to maybe take that out of the equation. I I'm very curious. My expectation is this game comes down to Aaron Jones, considering the running defense, the rush defense we're going against. I think that Aaron Jones could and should have his biggest day of the year so far.
Yeah, and going back to your point about Darnold at a time, like it's weird to look at because Darnold is at least a couple weeks ago, he was like one of the highest pressured quarterbacks in the NFL, but he also had some of the most time to throw. And that's just because when you have more time to throw, eventually you're going to get pressured, especially when a lot of the time you have a lot of time to throw. And Minnesota, pass blocking wise, has been doing really good about giving him the time. But that's been one of my slights against Kevin O'Connell is all the plays just seem so long developing. And I hate like the little screen passes behind the line of scrimmage. I really hate that. Like just that play in general. I feel like more often than not is just like not very profitable, I guess, very beneficial. But there just comes a point where you need to just give the ball to Justin Jefferson. Just like somehow, if it's 2 yards behind the line, let him create, let him do it. Just the ball needs to get to Jefferson. He doesn't need to be running a flag route 20, 30 yards down the field. He doesn't always need to be going vertical on the sideline, like slants, short little in breaking routes, short little out breaking routes. And even Jordan Addison, like, I don't know, like Jordan Addison is getting open. He's just not getting the ball. So I can't even be like, because I've been of the school of thought that like Jordan Addison, like he's fine. He's not as good as a lot of our fan base likes to crack him up to be, but he's getting open. Like he's doing his job, he's just not really getting the ball. So you can't really blame him for it. And I don't know if Darnold and Addison just don't have that connection, but I don't know. We just got to find a way to be getting the ball to JJ. Jordan Addison needs more love, and it feels weird. You really can't give the ball to Justin Jefferson enough because I know last game he had like 15 targets or something, somewhere around that number. But like even that's not enough. So saying that and saying that Jordan Addison needs to get more targets, it just feels like I don't want the team to pass a ton more, but when you're passing, you just need to be going where you should be going with the balls. And I'm really tired of seeing this run game be bad too. I'd really like a good
Yeah.
run game, and this is the week to have a good run game.
I will say I I think the Addison being open thing is, and it was same with the Naylor being open against the Lions. Like, I think it's just Darnold for as physically talented and good as he is at throwing the ball. I just think processing the field is where he has a weak point, and we've said it, and I'll say it again. I think it's why I'm excited to see what JJ McCarthy could do with this group next year because his biggest strength is his reads he makes, especially on key plays like third downs, things like that. He's very good at processing what's in front of him. Um, I I don't know what it looks like. I'm excited to see. I'm also very nervous because we've been used to the offense, like you said, having these more drawn out, long developing plays. Even going back to like 2022, a lot of Jefferson's success was when he was 25, 30 yards down the field, and obviously that takes time to develop. But we'll trust. In regards to speed of the offense and time to throw and what may give us options or cause it to have no choice but to be quick throws. We have a new left tackle who is currently projected to start. It could change. I would assume he does in Cam Robinson. What do you think of that trade and the value for what you're getting?
Looking at the trade, just like in a vacuum, it's a good trade to get Cam Robinson. I kind of have to I have to separate it in my head because like we didn't have that much draft capital to play with at the deadline to throw around before. And that was when you were talking about upgrading your team. Now you're trading draft capital for somebody that's just going to replace another player that's way better than the player they got. So, and I'm not saying that that makes it a bad trade. That just kind of makes it sucks in your head because you think like this team is good. This team can at least contend a little bit in the playoffs, hopefully. And the trade you're imagining in your head for the deadline for this team is like an upgrade somewhere, like on the interior D line. But instead, the trade, and I'm not saying they can't do anything else, but the fact that the trade was to replace a top three, top four player on your team, and the player that you're getting obviously is not nearly as good. Um, Kind of sucks a little bit, but and when you take into the context, like this team's going to need a left tackle to stay. I don't want to say relevant, but to kind of at
Competitive.
least, yeah, competitive. Kind of keep that floor higher than it would be without a decent left tackle. And I understood the argument for not wanting to move two spots around like and change an entire side of your line, but like the continuity would still kind of be there if you kicked out Brandel, inserted Reisner. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't really want to start Quessenberry for a long time. Walter Rouse isn't ready. I don't think he's even been activated this season yet off the active game day roster. But um, I mean, I don't hate it at all. It's good to go out and at least like show. It's still a show of like, hey, this team is. We believe this team can go deep. And Cam Robinson, I really didn't think would have been a realistic target for left tackle, but
Yeah.
it's cool that
I
they got
will
him.
that's my I like it a lot more than you do in the sense of a couple things. I think it's you don't get to trade for tackles. It's like starting caliber tackles in the middle of a season. It just doesn't really happen. So to be able to do that is huge. The fact it's a 2026 fifth that could turn into a fourth, also knowing that we could then basically replace that pick because we're not going to resign him. He could very likely turn into a comp pick. So as long as we get the comp pick, it basically turns into free money. at the end of the day. The Jags are paying, I believe, like $7 or $9 million of his salary, and we're only paying two plus like 50,000, 58,000, something like that per game he plays. Um, I think to your point, it gives the team the best. I can understand the argument of like the continuity of moving guys around but having the same core. But I think as far as individual player who could step into that position, this is the best option that we possibly had, other than maybe signing Bakhtiari and hoping he stayed healthy. I think, which is a long shot. You and I think, are on the same page with that. But I think this was the best move that they could have made for the value. Some people are upset we're using any capital, but again, it could recoup itself. It's one of the things that I love and drives me crazy about Kwesi is his ability to overanalyze every move and all the dominoes that fall into place. When it comes to trades and free agency, but in this case, trades and pretty much every trade he's made so far, I love it. I think he's very smart about, am I just acquiring a player? How are we going to negotiate the payment? How are we going to negotiate possibly uh, conditions of that pick? How could this maybe turn into more picks? It was similar. We traded for Josh Dobbs last year, fully knowing that he wasn't going to be the quarterback in 2023 or 2024, I should say. So I don't see this as like the deadline move. I think the deadline move is still something else that would be contingent. The extent of which we go for a big trade would be contingent on the outcome this weekend. I don't love that. I think we should have done it already if we were, but I think this is, let's give this team the best chance to be competitive and then see if we can even elevate us to like get an elite D tackle or an elite corner, whatever that looks like. But I love the move. I to your point, I was shocked that any starting left tackle would be available.
Yeah, and it comes to my head. Does Kwesi own the Jaguars?
I think he
We
would have
took,
gotten more for Cleveland if he did.
yeah, that's true. But we took their prime time slot and took their left tackle, and now we have to beat them what next week? So
Yes, and then it's Tennessee. Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Jacksonville real estate is expensive, so it's cool
Is
to
it?
own it. I
I
don't
don't
know.
think that stadium's very expensive. I remember
Probably
last year
not.
reports came out about rodent droppings in the
Oh,
concession
good.
stands.
I mean, I was just thinking about Florida beach.
Yes,
I
beach.
think they got beaches in Jacksonville.
I think that should be their official slogan, tourism slogan. Florida
Beach.
beach. Yep,
Jacksonville's
that
where the old people are at, right?
I think they're kind of just all over.
Well, yeah, but I don't really think about old people in Miami.
The old people are in the villages. That's what I
Oh,
know from writing mortgages in Miami. Anytime there was retirees, they'd move to this area called the villages. I forgot exactly the town. Anyways, yeah, I love the trade. I think for the guys in that locker room, to your point, like it shows that they're competitive and that the team still believes they can. Because this isn't a move you make if you're like, well, we're 5-2, time to throw in the towel. Like that, you don't do this. So I think, unless you're somebody who would have slid into that to open starting position on the offensive line, I think everyone else in the locker room probably loves this move.
yeah. Like I said, I don't hate it. It just I don't hate it. It just in the back of my head, it's like I wish I could have gone toward an upgrade. It all circles back to the very obvious, like, wow, I wish Darisaw didn't get hurt.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Yeah,
When it comes to Sunday as well, looks like Cashman is out. Um, and then I believe Kevin O'Connell said strongly that just based on how the injury report's playing out, that the preseason GOAT himself, Levi Drake Rodriguez, and he, again, very carefully, being active does not necessarily mean you're like we've seen Bo Richter active a few times and he has not even gone in. But LDR gonna be active. Are you looking for him to possibly rotate in at any point? Just given his size and kind of raw physicality, do you think they just throw him out there for a couple packages and see what he can do?
I think he has more potential to see the field than Bo Richter would have had because Bo Richter would have to get snaps over like four edge rushers that are clearly better. So Levi Drake Rodriguez only has like a couple interior defensive linemen that are definitely better than him. So for them to rotate out, then I could for sure see that. I
Can he
don't
play
know.
linebacker? Can he
Probably
fill the
not.
Cashman role, you think?
That would be kind of sick though, just to see that. Can you imagine like just sitting at your TV and seeing LDR playing Mike?
And just running coverage, like picking up running backs out of the backfield, like that'd be so sick. I mean, we saw Ivan Pace in coverage like 30 yards down the field, I think against St. Fran. So
Unacceptable. Never do that again, Brian Flores.
yeah, I think he could get in. I would like to see him get. I mean, at the end of the day, he's one of those guys you drafted knowing he had insane physical potential, but probably needed to work on quite a few things. But this defense could use a spark of just big angry man knock people over. Like we kind of, I think when we talk about Flores' defense, sometimes it is very complicated, and that's, or the illusion of complexity, as the staff will say. I think just put a bowling ball in there and let them knock over some pins. Like, I want to see what happens.
I think I think that's more of the football analysis that we need. Is none of this like we can stop with the nerd metrics and we can bring back big guy run people over or whatever you said.
I mean, well, yeah. What I don't know what I'm not saying like start him, because obviously Harrison Phillips has had some pretty key plays
Yeah.
and impacts this year. I think very underrated, under the radar influence on the success this defense has had at times. But what's the worst case? You put him in for a play, he gets knocked over. Like, what has been happening to our defensive line the last couple of weeks, anyways? Like, there's a reason we're not generating pressure or sacks. I just want to see what he can do. So I say throw him in for a couple plays, maybe in the first quarter, just to see what happens, and then decide from there if you want to give him some more opportunities to kind of go be a wrecking ball. Don't think it hurts.
No, I mean the bar for interior D linemen for this team the past couple years is rather low.
Yeah. And that's not a slight on Phillips, but Phillips
No,
isn't your traditional defensive tackle.
yeah, Phillips isn't like he's fine. He's not that great. He's just kind of on a team with a lot of bad interior D linemen.
And for that reason, he made a lot of money.
Yeah, a good contract.
With kind of the grand scope of missing Cashman, the stigma of the Vikings against backup quarterbacks, especially in prime time, taking a look at the Colts defense, having a new starting left tackle, there's a lot of layers to it. Where does your gut go? Like, are you nervous about this game, or do you think on paper it should be a win unequivocally? Like, what's your vibe?
I I'm comfortable that we'll win this, and I said it last week, so maybe it doesn't mean anything, but you have to. So that's what I'm telling myself, and that's what's making me feel better is that they will win because they have to win. If they, I'm like kind of concerned about where the team is at right now, which again I know we keep talking about before the season. Oh, you're concerned if they're 5-2, like the way that it happened. Yes, I am a little like about them being 5-2. If they lose to Indianapolis, and in Indianapolis isn't like a bad team, but they're not a good team.
They're
So
the
if you,
definition of mid.
yeah, so if you have them walk into US Bank Stadium and beat you on prime time after the last two games that you've had, can't have it. So I'm pretty comfortable that Minnesota wins it.
Yeah, like taking out PTSD from Cooper Rush and 2020 Andy Dalton. Maybe it's just the Cowboys that we lose to backup quarterbacks. Maybe that's been the problem the whole time. And also, to be
I'm
fair,
rejecting the backup quarterback thing for this game because Joe Flacco was named the starter because Anthony Richardson sucks. That's not due to injury.
but even then, if you were to roll with that, Kevin O'Connell against backups has been fine.
There. Okay,
The
we're back.
was it? I think we played Teddy Bridgewater in 2022, or was it Skylar Thompson? I don't even know if Skylar Thompson was on that team. I think
Skylar Thompson started. Teddy came in because Skylar
okay,
got, I think,
got
concussed.
it. We won that game. Who was the Jets quarterback that year? Mike White.
Mike White.
We beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that game was a little closer at the end. We had to have a game sealing Cam Bynum pick, but
First of all,
um, I think maybe the backup thing is a Zimmer issue.
yeah.
Like, I don't think that's something we've seen under Kevin O'Connell. And I know that, like, again, that game comes down to defense. But if Ed Donatel could stop multiple backups, I don't see why. And I know Flacco's not, like, your point. And even if he was QB2, like, he's not your traditional backup. Like, he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. It's just, I think that's why people are freaking out. My concern is more his style of play, throwing over the middle of the field, which shockingly we have been booty cheeks at. It has not gone
Mhm.
well. So I would really hope that somehow, some way they've addressed. Yes, you might not have somebody with Cashman's exact skill set, but somebody needs to kind of be a spy. Not so much in the sense of the quarterback taking off and running, but there needs to be a middle zone covered in the middle of the field. There has to be some more accountability for them throwing over the middle, or at least somebody there to hit them and like actually cause jarring contact when it does happen. Because the problem is not only are these people like these receivers and tight ends making these catches, it's there's no one within 5 to 10 yards of them.
Well, that's where the illusion of complexity fails sometimes because when you're sending all these people, there's going to be open spots, and it's usually always going to be the middle of the field. So when that illusion isn't really an illusion and it's quite obvious, you need to make the illusion better and maybe not have it be an illusion at all, just actually be complex.
Wow. You should run for office with that.
I think I'm a little late.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be this year. You can kind
Okay.
of, figure out which side wins and then decide just to hop on that wagon,
Yeah.
you know, pull a Shohei Ohtani.
No comment.
Yeah, I know. I must share a story. So people think I'm superstitious with the Vikings. I'm significantly more superstitious with baseball. For those who haven't heard me explain this in the past, I'm from Southern California. Vikings are because of my dad. So I'm a Dodger fan. Brev texted me in game 4 after Freddie's 2-run home run at the beginning of the game and said, don't forget to tell me how a championship feels. And then 20 minutes later, everything unraveled and I got a my bad text. Um, so what I did is I went into our text list and deleted those texts. Brev refused to unsend them, but I went and deleted them myself. And then at the most stressful moment of game 5, Brev texted me, congrats. And I went and deleted that as well. Because I was not going to let you take that from me.
And they won. They won game 5.
Yes, because I deleted.
Oh.
I 100. You have no idea how. I'll tell you after. But I was doing all sorts of superstitious shit. I bought my buddy a Dodger hat because he didn't have one, and I said it was his fault we lost. So I went and bought him one, and he was wearing the hat as we won. He's gonna frame the hat because he thinks it worked. So, you know, I'll do some. I am superstitious with the Vikings too, where we're 0-2 in my usual game day fit. Uh, since starting 5-0 in it, so I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna switch to different shoes, maybe a different jersey combination. I'm gonna switch up the vibes in a hope that it brings victory back for us. Sometimes you gotta
Yeah.
you gotta switch things up a little bit.
I'm really not a superstitious person with sports, but I am superstitious if I ever use products that aren't Dr. Squatch, deodorant, shampoo, body wash, anything like that. You can actually use the link down in the description for $10 off a purchase of $20 or more. If you want to help out the show, something will kick back to us. Maybe we'll get a bar of soap. Feel like a man, smell like Skolcial.
Yeah. Just because the last couple of weeks of Vikings football had to stink doesn't mean you do as well. Also, now that baseball's over, you can focus all your attention on football, unless you're a Timberwolves fan. Big win last night, so maybe you're
Go
gonna
on.
go get. Well,
The Wild are really good.
I
It's kind of
know
funny. Yeah.
it is really ironic. Yeah, but we got hockey, we got basketball kicked back up. Obviously, we have football. If you are a Vikings fan living somewhere in the southeast, the next few weeks will be a great opportunity to catch a Vikings game, potentially for cheap in Jacksonville. You're not in the southeast, you're in the
Yeah.
northeast.
All right.
you missed your chance in week 1.
Sorry.
But you can also use code Brev or code JasonH on SeatGeek to get yourself an even better deal on your first order and maybe save $20 off your first purchase. Not too bad. That's a couple brewskis, or depending on the stadium, half a brewski. Save yourself some money, smell good, look good, feel good, and go catch a Vikings game, a Wild game, a Timberwolves game. Hell, college football's even happening. You can go
Mhm.
watch a college football game. If you're in, like I said, the Southeast, you got some great games to go watch. If you're in Brev's area, not so much on the Northeast coast. Not a lot of college football dominance. I guess Penn State
Yeah, Penn State, Virginia Tech sucks now. UVA is a joke. Yeah, Pitt's good,
ish.
I guess.
Well, with that, final predictions. We both have the Vikings winning if I don't go with my emotion and go with my brain, because my emotion tells me we're going to lose by 75 because that's just the
hmm
vibes.
hmm
Um, what's your final score prediction?
27-10 Minnesota.
38-17 Minnesota.
I like that. I
Because
hope.
we, like you said, like, and I know that's less of a prediction and more like what I think should happen if we play to our best ability.
Yeah.
Um, I think there's no excuse not to go kick someone's ass like you did against, like, Houston's been in a rough patch. They're still not as good as the Colts. Or they're still better
No.
than the sorry. They're still
Well,
better than the Colts.
yeah.
They're still sorry, I said that wrong. They're still better than the Colts, and
hmm
we took the boot to them at US Bank. I have there's you can't play down to your competition. Like, we've said this for years for different coaching staffs, but it's you just gotta go in prime time, put up a statement. And we said this before the Rams game, but oh well, you didn't do it. Here's your second chance until December. Go score 38, 40 points, kick someone's teeth in, and walk away feeling great heading into 3 straight road games.
Uh, breaking news, first reporting. I will probably be predicting the Vikings to win for the next 3 weeks.
I'm gonna be honest. Depending on what happens this weekend, the Jags game might feel a little different to me because they're not that far off from what the Colts are. So I
Okay.
would say yes. I mean, obviously, I think we're always going to end up predicting a win, because we're so negative all the time that we always pick our team to win.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be massive. Not just winning, but like winning with force.
With force.
You have to. You
Yeah.
have to go out and dominate. Like, I understand you have Cashman out and you have a new left tackle. I'm not too worried about the left tackle. We're going to be playing with a league average left tackle like 90% of teams do. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, it's not that crazy. Obviously, we missed Darisaw, but Cashman being out sucks. But like, next man up. Like, go do the damn thing. Like, injuries are not an excuse. You're not. It's not last year where you're missing Justin Jefferson and your starting quarterback. Knock on all of the wood.
Would.
Well, with that, we will see you guys at some point after the game, hopefully with positive vibes. Otherwise, we might have to start the show by singing the This Is Our Cult song, and I don't know if I'm mentally prepared to do that.
There's a big piece of wood right here I'm knocking on.
We'll see you guys next week.